Hi, Eval Academy community. Bonnie here. I wrote an article for Eval Academy a few years ago about implementation science, and I was so excited to share with you a suite of tools that I use regularly and that I find so helpful in my evaluations. But I feel like I didn't do it justice, so I am back to share just a little bit more about how I use implementation science in evaluation. So, first, a little about implementation science. It is a field built to solve a frustrating problem. I'm sure many of you have heard that it can take up to 20 years for a clinical intervention to make its way into everyday practice. So, think about that. That means a baby can be born and grow up and start college in the time that it takes for a proven intervention to become routine. This is the gap that implementation science exists to close. So, implementation science is a field designed to bridge that divide between what we already know works and what we do, which is not always the same thing. So, instead of focusing on whether or not an intervention works, this is not about effectiveness like many of our evaluations are. Implementation science helps us to understand how things work and who needs to be involved and what barriers get in the way or what enablers make it easier and how it will be sustained. So it's not enough to design a great program. It has to be implemented well. We can have an effective intervention, but if it's not implemented well, it can still fail and we will fail to achieve our outcomes. And that is something that we can evaluate and report on. So, why is this important to evaluators? Because implementation science directs our attention to aspects of implementation that are important to achieving outcomes. Things like reach, acceptability and adoption, feasibility, equity, and sustainability. And all of those things relate to how well a program achieves its outcomes. So, implementation science is a great resource if you want to evaluate not if something worked, but why. So, if you are evaluating for spread or scale, and I've got an article about that too on Eval Academy, learning why something worked can be very important for your intervention. Using implementation science frameworks can help uncover the barriers and enablers about why something worked or didn't. So you're not just asking, did this program work? You're asking, how did it work and for whom and in what conditions? And how can we do even better? So I think implementation science frameworks can make your evaluation findings richer and maybe more actionable. Okay, implementation science has this massive toolkit. There are so many frameworks and models, theories, and checklists. It is very overwhelming, and I am not an expert in all of it, but I have found just a couple of frameworks that I have used repeatedly and regularly in my evaluation work. And so I'll share them here with you now.